The story begins in a land covered in vast white snow where ferocious wolves are stealthily advancing toward an innocent flock of sheep. Suddenly, a sharp gunshot rings out, causing the flock to scatter in panic. Then, a second and third shot echo in succession. Every time a shot resounds, a wolf collapses until all the predators lie motionless on the snow. At this moment, the man standing behind those precise shots finally reveals himself. He is Cory Lambert, a tracking expert and an agent of the United States Fish and Wildlife Service. After dealing with the wolves that were threatening to attack the flock, Cory proceeds to use a rope to tie their carcasses together and pull them back, leaving bright red blood trails stretching across the stark white snow, while bringing the wolves he just dealt with to the local sheriff. He receives a mission at a mountain east of the Badlands within the Indian reservation, where locals reported a mountain lion affecting their lives. Having accepted the mission, he goes to the house of his ex-wife, Wilma, to talk about this assignment. Because it is quite close to her parents' house, he suggests bringing their son, Casey, along to visit his maternal grandparents. After receiving her consent, he takes his son to the ranch to care for the livestock and teach him how to ride a horse. Until the next morning, he takes his son to the grandparents' house in the Wind River area of the Native Americans. Upon seeing his grandfather, Dan, Casey joyfully throws himself into his arms. The grandfather then turns to look at his son-in-law, and knowing well that Cory is here for a hunting mission, offers to lead him to the place where the lion is. On the way, the two talk as they go until lion tracks appear on the snowy ground, catching Cory's attention. He quickly identifies that there are 2 lions, but his father-in-law says there are up to 3 because last year that lion gave birth to 2 cubs and brought them here, and now is the time it teaches them how to hunt. Cory then quickly borrows his father-in-law's snowmobile to search for the animals. However, before he can find that lion, he discovers something unusual that makes him frown in confusion. It is an area of snow imprinted with a sunken human shape along with red bloodstains still lingering on the white background. Following those footprints on the snow pile, Cory is horrified to discover the body of a girl who died from losing too much blood in the bone-chilling cold. Looking at the body of the young woman covered in blood leaves Cory so shocked he is speechless. It takes a moment for Cory to calm down, pick up the radio, and call the Fremont County Sheriff Office to report the emergency situation he just discovered. A while later, Sheriff Ben, along with his father-in-law, arrive at the scene. At this moment, snow suddenly falls very heavily, obscuring all vision. But they are still forced to wait patiently for the FBI to arrive according to protocol, even as the body of the unfortunate girl lies exposed, gradually being covered by white snow. This makes Cory feel extremely angry and pained because it turns out this is the body of the young girl, Natalie, who was the best friend of his late daughter, Emily, who died in a heartbreaking incident 3 years ago. It is not until a long time later that they see the car lights of the FBI appearing from afar. Noticing that the car is having difficulty as it seems unable to determine its direction, Cory takes the initiative to approach and assist. Stepping out of the car is a young female FBI agent named Jane Banner. She appears in a state that leaves everyone present stunned because she does not even have any specialized equipment on her to deal with the harshness of the weather here. In the middle of a freezing winter with sub-zero temperatures, she wears only a single coat. And even the car she is driving is just a temporary rental from outside, not a specialized vehicle. It turns out the FBI sent her here only because she happened to be the agent closest to the scene when the report was received. Just those meager details make Banner, in the eyes of the local police and indigenous people, become an extremely unprofessional agent with no preparation. Noticing Banner trembling from the cold, Cory quickly pushes Banner into the house. He urgently asks his mother-in-law to find and prepare thicker, warmer clothes for her. Seeing Banner wearing the clothes his daughter once wore makes Cory's smile suddenly vanish. However, that is only a very small change on Cory's face. No one notices it, so everyone quickly moves to the crime scene to begin the investigation. At the scene, Natalie's body is being carefully guarded by the local police amidst the cold snow. Banner approaches to carefully observe Natalie's body. She sees bruised wounds appearing everywhere, from her face to even her most sensitive areas. These clear marks of violence cause Banner to quickly list the case as a murder and request an immediate autopsy. She wonders why a young girl appeared in such a deserted and harsh place at night. Sheriff Ben explains that young people in this area frequently use snowmobiles to gather and hold parties on the white snow. At this time, when Banner turns to ask for Cory's opinion, he quietly jumps down from the vehicle and begins to meticulously analyze for her what a tracking expert like him has observed from the scene traces. First, Cory points out the footprints remaining on the snow, showing the toe area sinking deeper than the heel, proving that the girl used all her vital strength to flee from something. Then, after running a short distance, the girl fell face down in this deep sunken snow. He further explains that at night, when the temperature drops to minus 20 degrees Celsius, if the girl continuously inhaled that deadly cold air into her lungs while straining to run, the extremely cold air would freeze her lungs and cause blood to overflow. Then she would begin to cough up blood continuously. So even though it is not known exactly where she ran from, at this fallen position, her lungs must have shattered. A stream of scene analysis from Cory leaves Banner stunned with surprise. Then he quietly turns away, saying he needs to go back to his son. Seeing Cory about to leave, Banner immediately holds him back, pleading with him to support her in solving this difficult case. And finally, Cory nods in agreement when the local police team has finished questioning Natalie's parents. They learn the reason the family did not report it when Natalie did not come home was that they thought she was with her boyfriend, Matt, so no one suspected she had met with disaster. Afterward, Sheriff Ben leads Banner into the autopsy room to meet Dr. Randy. Here, the doctor points out each bruised wound on the girl's body for Banner to see, but she gradually loses patience. Because although everyone understands this is a murder case, Randy cannot officially record in the file that the cause of death was homicide due to the lack of direct legal evidence. This means the FBI will have no basis to take over this case, causing Banner to unintentionally lose her temper with both the doctor and Sheriff Ben. After stepping out of the examination room, Banner asks Ben for Cory's phone number and contacts him. Receiving the call from the female agent, Cory, who is driving at that time, quickly turns around to coordinate the investigation. On this side, Sheriff Ben, along with Banner, arrives at Natalie's house to find more clues. Here, she continuously questions Natalie's father, Martin, as to why a father could let his daughter go with someone he did not even know anything about. Facing the criticism, Martin painfully says that his daughter was 18 years old and had the right to decide her own life. So, he chose to trust her, but this time he was wrong. He also questions Banner back as to why, while trying to help them, she starts with such a string of insults. Because she is so eager to find the truth and is not receiving cooperation from the collapsing father, Banner decides to demand to talk to the girl mother despite Sheriff Ben's intervention. As soon as she pushes the bedroom door open, a horrific sight hits Banner's eyes, making her feel so terrified she wants to vomit because Natalie's mother is sitting on the bed and continuously hurting herself. Her arms are riddled with wounds, causing blood to flow everywhere. Just then, Cory also arrives in time at Martin's door, and when he sees his close friend, Martin's cold shell finally shatters. He collapses on Cory's shoulder, sobbing bitterly. After a period of pouring out his heart, Martin's emotions gradually stabilize enough to talk with Cory. Standing before a friend who has also just endured the pain of losing a child like himself, Cory understands more than anyone. He cannot advise Martin to try and be happy, but can only honestly comfort him that eventually he will have to get used to this pain. That is all. He also advises Martin to live for his remaining son. But to Martin, that son, living right nearby, is as if he has gone far away because drugs are now the family of an addict like him. Martin even bitterly hopes the police will investigate if his son is involved in the case. The life of a father who lost a child becomes extremely painful. He asks Cory that if he finds the person who did this to his daughter, regardless of who it is, to deal with him right on the spot. Then Martin walks into the house, leaving Cory standing there with a face full of pensive thoughts. Then Ben and Cory together lead Banner to where Natalie's brother, Chip Hansen, is living. Before meeting him directly, they do not forget to warn her that he is a guy with a very bad temper, so she needs to be extremely careful in every action. When they approach and knock on the door of a small, squalid house, the person who opens the door is Sam, who is currently living with Chip. Sheriff Ben immediately asks him about Chip's whereabouts, but he insists that he does not know. Not only that, he also intentionally provides false information to mislead both Ben and Banner. Right as they are off guard, he suddenly pulls out and sprays directly at them a type of strange chemical spray. Meanwhile, Cory, following Ben's instructions, has stood guard at the back door and uses a snow shovel to capture the other two when they try to escape. Banner, in the house, after a period of struggling with limited vision, finally finds Sam's position. She raises her gun and fires repeatedly, and finally one bullet hits him. The shot leaves the addict gasping against the wall in critical condition. She tells Ben to quickly call for an ambulance because he is not entirely dead yet. However, Ben says the ambulance is as far as 1 hour away from this remote area, so it is best for her to ignore him there. Outside, Cory has captured Chip and another guy named Frank. They try their best to ask Chip about Natalie's boyfriend, but at that time, he has not had time to say anything more. He is focused on Banner's announcement that something bad has happened to his younger sister. Only when hearing the exact news that his sister was raped does he begin to wail piteously. Then they plan to take him to the Lambert area where Natalie's body has been moved to search for more evidence. However, Cory points out to Banner other suspicious signs at the scene. From this spot, everyone can clearly see the long slide marks of a snowmobile going straight up to the mountaintop. Along with that is the silhouette of a snowmobile appearing near where Natalie's body was discovered, but without any traces of returning. And according to Cory's assessment, the answer to this case lies in that direction. On the way to the snowy mountaintop, they suddenly encounter a horrific sight, the body of a man being eaten by an eagle. Because of this new discovery, they have to temporarily return to work with the support forces as well as the 3 suspicious addicts they just captured. That night, when having the opportunity to talk privately with Chip, Cory learns from his story that Natalie's boyfriend's real name is Matt. He worked as a security guard at an oil and gas plant and even looked as mature as Cory. He was a man who was nearly as old as Natalie's father. Because of that, in the past, Chip had also wanted to give that guy a beating. However, Natalie insisted on not letting him do so. Perhaps because love is what makes people become so blind. That evening, Banner comes to meet Cory, bringing him information about the body they saw this morning. That person was a security contractor for an oil drilling system, and his specific identity cannot be determined immediately. Cory then invites her into the house for coffee. He tells her about the painful passing of his daughter. It was on one of Cory's days off. That day, his wife had come to his place and stayed over. As for Emily, she held a party at home. But at that party, there were not just her friends, but also strangers who were not her friends who flocked in. Then the next day, he received a call from Natalie reporting that Emily was missing. They then discovered her body as far as 32 kilometers from their house, and the police could not give them too much information because her body at that time had been largely eaten by wild wolves. At this point, Cory's tears truly cannot be held back anymore. Banner, hearing that story, also cannot help but have her emotions strongly swayed. She goes into the bathroom to wash her face to stabilize her mood for a moment, and then returns to continue talking with Cory for a while before leaving. The next morning, they continue the investigation. While working with the local police, they split into 2 teams. The entire police team will go to find more information about Matt, while Cory will go to the house of a guy who used to live with Chip. But on the day they arrested them, he was not there. While traveling by snowmobile, Cory sees wolf tracks and follows them. Arriving at a rabbit burrow, he sees at the burrow entrance only the skeletal remains of a wolf lying bare there. Beside it is also a long slide mark of a snowmobile. Following that trace, he raises his binoculars and sees it could lead to the oil and gas plant where Matt works, and also where the local police team, along with Banner and Ben, are investigating. On this side, after asking an employee there about Matt, the police team is led by him to meet his boss, Evan. But very quickly, Evan suddenly turns hostile and pulls out weapons to threaten them, saying that they are standing on private land. So, this act is a violation of the law since the local police have no jurisdiction here. Out of options, Banner has to shout that she is with the FBI and that on this out-of-state land, she is the only one with jurisdiction. She then puts her gun in its holster and requests them to do the same. Evan, hearing this, though unwilling, tells his subordinates to put their guns in their holsters. At this time, the tension of the conversation eases, so Banner requests Evan to lead them to Matt's house. It is the shared house of all 3 people, including Matt, Evan, and Pete. In the house, only Pete is sleeping because he works the night shift. Then Banner approaches and knocks on the door. The events of that night are revealed. While Matt was in the bathroom, Natalie came and knocked on his trailer door. Immediately after, they had a sweet evening. But while they were talking together on the bed, suddenly there was noise outside. It was Matt's roommates. Initially, they thought those people were not coming home that night, so Natalie stayed over. But now, the drunks have returned. After returning, Pete deliberately teases the lovers. Even though Matt spoke up to stop him, he continued to tease them persistently like a leech, making Matt extremely frustrated, so he kicked him right off the bed. Matt then immediately grabbed Pete by the collar and threw him out of the room so he could quickly put his clothes back on. However, the other guy suddenly went crazy and attacked Matt maniacally. Although Natalie tried her best to intervene to protect her boyfriend, the three accomplices outside also immediately rushed in to support Pete. They joined forces to beat Matt to death on the spot, then turned to look at Natalie, who was now thrown onto the bed with the beastly eyes of animals. At this point, the real reason they always tried to evade the police when asked about Matt's whereabouts has appeared, and the cruel truth behind Natalie's death is gradually clarified through each detail. Returning to the context of the present, after Banner knocks and waits for a long time without seeing any movement inside, she places her hand on the doorknob, intending to open it, but finds it locked tight from the inside. With his seasoned experience, Sheriff Ben quickly speaks up to remind Banner to get away from that door immediately. But just as he finishes his sentence, a bullet from inside penetrates the door and shoots directly into Banner. Fortunately, thanks to being equipped with a bulletproof vest, Banner does not suffer any serious wounds. But along with that opening shot, a bloody battle immediately breaks out between the two sides as all the oil workers present their simultaneously pull-out guns to attack the police force. The police side is very quickly almost entirely taken down after just a few rounds of bullets. At this time, only Banner remains lying helpless on the ground, thinking she is about to meet her ancestors, when from afar Cory has promptly gifted each criminal a precise sniper shot. Thanks to wearing the specialized white protective suit, he can easily hide under the thick layer of snow, making it impossible for the enemy to trace his tracks, and only Pete remains able to escape. Although hit by several of Banner's bullets in the leg, he still tries to flee persistently, like a leech deep into the freezing snow forest. Cory immediately runs over to care for Banner's safety first, accepting to let Pete temporarily have a chance to escape. However, Banner firmly says, "Do not worry too much about me, but go find Pete quickly to eliminate future trouble." He immediately runs off to pursue the remaining Pete, who is hiding. He is currently trying to escape deep into the forest, painfully dragging his bullet-ridden legs while trying to observe his surroundings for fear someone is chasing him. As soon as he turns his head back to look, Cory is already standing looming right behind him and gives him a punch straight to the face, making the evil guy faint immediately. Cory patiently waits until Pete wakes from his stupor. At this time, he has packed him neatly into a bag with his head still full of blood, then quietly brings him up to the top of Gannett Peak, the highest mountain in the freezing Wyoming region. Pete does not stop screaming in extreme panic and tries to struggle to escape the ropes tying his hands tightly, but completely contrary to his panic, Cory at this time appears scary in his calmness. He does not say much, but only coldly lets him know the current position of both of them is Gannett Peak. Facing Cory's cold attitude, Pete finally submits and keeps his mouth shut to talk seriously with Cory. He admits that he himself was wrong. However, when Cory asks what he did, he tries to blame the cold that covers this place all year round. He excuses that it is the cold that made him have nothing to do, no women, and nothing at all. He continuously denies and thinks he did nothing wrong without being willing to tell the truth. This makes Cory, though still maintaining a cold attitude, unable to hide his inner anger anymore. He steps forward and forces Pete to admit all his wrongdoings, even having known beforehand what he did. Until hearing from his own mouth what he did to Natalie, Cory still cannot contain his anger. But then he unexpectedly takes out a small knife. What Cory does after that is cut the ropes binding him. Right when Pete is still dazed, not understanding what is happening, Cory says he will give him a chance exactly like Natalie. This makes Pete feel even more confused because he does not know what chance Natalie had. It turns out the chance Cory talks about here is the chance to escape in this freezing snowy landscape with bare feet. Natalie ran up to 10 kilometers because she was a true warrior. But as for this incompetent Pete, perhaps he will not run even 200 meters. Exactly as Cory predicted, he has not even run out of sight before collapsing. He dies in exactly the same way Natalie passed away. After returning, the first thing Cory does is visit Banner in the hospital. He gives her all his sincere advice after a long time working together. He clearly understands her good character and always hopes she will become stronger in the future. After that, Cory immediately goes to find Natalie's father to report the news to his friend. Entering the house and searching everywhere without finding Martin, Cory feels a bit of panic. But then, seeing him sitting in the back garden, Cory calms down and goes to sit with his friend. Looking at the drawing on Martin's face, Cory asks about it, and Martin says this was his face after death. He also tells Cory that this was the first time in over a year Chip had called him. He rarely answered the phone because he rarely received good news. But this time it was different. He received good news, and he would go to the police station to pick up his son after wiping this damn thing off his face. And in the time waiting to go pick up Chip, Martin hopes Cory can sit there with him to remember his daughter bit by bit. Cory, hearing that, is very willing and promises he will not go anywhere. Everything is finally settled completely. The two fathers, with the pain of losing a child, are now using silence to comfort each other. More than just a crime thriller, Wind River is a deeply emotional story about grief, guilt, and the quiet pain that people carry long after tragedy has passed. At first, the film appears to be a straightforward investigation into the death of a young woman. But as the story unfolds, it gradually reveals something much heavier. The mystery is only the surface. At its heart, this is a film about families left behind, about people trying to survive after losing someone they love, and about communities that have spent years living with pain that too often goes unseen. One of the film's greatest strengths is how it never relies on exaggerated drama to create emotion. Instead, it allows silence, facial expressions, and the harsh landscape to tell much of the story. The endless snow-covered wilderness is not just a beautiful backdrop. It becomes a symbol of isolation, grief, and forgotten lives. Every wide shot of the frozen mountains reminds us how small and helpless people can feel when facing both nature and unimaginable loss. Cory Lambert is also one of the most memorable protagonists in modern crime cinema because he is not portrayed as a flawless hero. He is not driven by revenge alone, nor by a sense of glory. He carries the unbearable weight of losing his own daughter, and that pain quietly shapes every decision he makes throughout the story. He understands Martin's grief not because someone explained it to him, but because he has already lived through it himself. That shared pain is why their final conversation is so powerful. Neither father needs a long speech. They simply sit together in silence, proving that sometimes the greatest comfort comes from someone who truly understands your suffering. Jane Banner's journey is equally meaningful. She arrives as an outsider with little experience in such a brutal environment, constantly doubted by the local officers and forced to earn everyone's respect. Yet despite every setback, she never gives up searching for the truth. Her determination reminds us that justice often depends on ordinary people refusing to walk away, even when the odds are against them. The film also refuses to offer an easy or comforting ending. Although those responsible eventually face the consequences of their actions, nothing can truly heal the families who have already lost their children. Justice can punish the guilty, but it cannot return the people who are gone. That painful reality is what makes the ending linger long after the credits roll. The victory feels real, but it is also bittersweet because everyone involved has already paid a price that can never be recovered. Perhaps the most heartbreaking message of Wind River is that many tragedies happen not because nobody cares, but because some people are simply forgotten. The film shines a light on communities that rarely receive attention and reminds us that every victim has a family, a future, and people waiting for them to come home. It asks us not only to care about solving crimes, but also to remember the lives behind the headlines. In the end, Wind River is a film that stays with you not because of its violence or its shocking twists, but because of its humanity. It tells a gripping detective story while exploring themes of loss, love, responsibility, and compassion with remarkable honesty. Long after the mystery is solved, what remains is the image of two grieving fathers sitting together in silence, finding comfort not through words, but through shared understanding. That quiet final moment perfectly captures why Wind River is widely regarded as one of the most powerful and emotionally unforgettable crime dramas of its generation. The value of a film lies in its reputation, while the value of a review lies in the feeling. The story today ends here. Thank you for watching. What do you think about this film? Please comment below.